Chapter 6785. A rich pill aroma gradually spread throughout the room, and Xiaohei couldn't help but take a deep breath. The pill aroma was invigorating, and even her origin power seemed to have become jubilant. This time the pill aroma didn't disappear. On the contrary, it became more and more intense, and finally, it exuded an extremely alluring fragrance. This is the immortal establishing pill. Xiaohei's eyes were filled with desire. Just by smelling the pill aroma she could tell how extraordinary this pill was. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the perfectly round pills in the pill cauldron, and a smile also appeared on her face. At least she hadn't wasted her blood spirit stones. She had refined 5 pills in this cauldron, and their value was undoubtedly much higher than that of the immortal spirit herbs. She took out a white porcelain bottle and placed the pills in it separately. Only then did she open the door and look outside. Beichen hasn't returned yet. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look at the sky. It had already been 2 hours since she left. Maybe Grandmaster Xinxing took a liking to him at first sight and decided to have him stay for a meal? Xiaohei speculated. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. That's not impossible. Let's go and find Qinxue. The woman and beast walked upstairs and knocked on the door. Yang Qinxue opened the door. Hongzhuang, you're here. Yang Qinxue smiled happily and reached out to pull her into the room. As soon as they entered, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that Yang Lingfeng was also here. She might as well save herself the trouble of making another trip. Qinxue Lingfeng, these are for you. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 white porcelain bottles and handed them over. Seeing this, Yang Qinxue couldn't help but say, you can keep them for yourself. We don't lack these things, so don't trouble yourself. They had just noticed that Hongzhuang had failed in refining the pills, and now she had taken out these bottles. It was already very difficult for her to walk this path alone, and now she wanted to help them. How could they accept these bottles? Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the trace of pity in Yang Qinshua's eyes. She was a little confused. Why would Qinshua look at her like that? This bottle contains what you need the most right now. Don't regret it if you refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang joked. Yang Lingfeng chuckled. Hongzhuang, you're exaggerating. Unless there's an even more powerful immortal establishing pill inside. That's something only you can do. No one else can do it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. Yang Lingfeng was stunned. Suddenly, he reacted and said in astonishment, could it be that I was right? Is this the immortal establishment pill? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. If it was an ordinary pill, I wouldn't have given it to you. I saw that you were mainly collecting medicinal herbs for the immortal establishment pill in the market, so I guess that you were preparing to break through to the elementary immortal stage. These 2 immortal establishment pills are 40% more effective than ordinary immortal establishment pills. I'm sure the success rate will increase a lot. As her voice fell, Yang Lingfeng and Yang Qinshue just stood there quietly, their expressions a little wooden. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but wave her hand in front of their eyes, she found that the 2 of them directly rushed up to her. Yang Qinshue grabbed her arm excitedly. Hongzhuang, you're so nice. How can there be such a considerate person in this world? Chapter 6786. Do you want to hug her? At this moment, a gentle voice sounded from behind the door. Yang Lingfeng raised his head and saw the handsome and refined face. It was different from the usual breeze-like face. At this moment there was a hint of threat in it. Ha. Yang Lingfeng laughed sheepishly. I was just joking. The first time he noticed Beichen's displeasure, the intimidating power was not inferior to his own father's. Bailey Hongzhuang looked helplessly at Di Beichen, who had a cold expression on his face, and said with a smile, we were just joking. Don't make such jokes casually in the future. Di Beichen's voice was cold and hard. Bailey Hongzhuang stuck out her tongue. Understood. Yang Lingfeng also hurriedly expressed his position. Absolutely not, I promise. Only when the solemn expression on Di Beichen's face disappeared did Yang Lingfeng breathe a sigh of relief. He also understood that Beichen's feelings for Hongzhuang completely did not allow others to have the slightest bit of desire. How was your chat with Grandmaster Xinxing just now? Bailey Hongzhuang looked over with concern on her face. We only talked about some exchanges on array techniques. Grandmaster Xin was very generous and was willing to give this junior pointers. He even gave me 2 books to study properly. Facing Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's expression instantly became gentle, and even his voice was filled with love. That's pretty good. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Grandmaster Xin is an open-minded person. With him around, at least we don't have to worry too much about Zhengu Dao causing trouble for us. Yang Qinxue and Yang Lingfeng could feel the sweet atmosphere between the two of them, and they could not help but feel a little emotional. Sigh, looking at them like this makes me want to find someone to accompany me. Yang Lingfeng sighed. He had never felt anything before, but now that he looked at this harmonious and beautiful pair all day long, he was a little moved. Yang Qinxue chuckled. If father heard what you said, he would definitely feel comforted. Don't talk about me. You and Qingli should speed up. Both of you are so lukewarm. I'm getting anxious. Yang Lingfeng rolled his eyes. After so many years, they had already tacitly agreed that the two of them were a couple, but the two of them just had to be so wishy-washy. You don't have to worry about it. Yang Qinshua's expression changed slightly, and she quickly retorted. Qingli, why are you here? Di Beichen suddenly asked. Hearing this, Yang Lingfeng couldn't help but laugh. Beichen, how come even you know how to play people like this now? You two are really... Yang Qinxue turned around speechlessly, only to find that Bai Qingli was already standing behind her. Then, did he hear what they said just now? Why are you here? Yang Qinxue was at a loss. Her face was tinged with a hint of crimson, and she didn't even dare to look him in the eye. Just now it was all nonsense. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Qinxue, and his gaze gradually softened. I understand. Understand? What exactly did he understand? Yang Qinxue raised her head in confusion, only to meet a pair of gentle eyes. Her cheeks instantly turned even redder. Yang Lingfeng raised his eyebrows, a trace of pride in his expression. Brother Qingli, it's best that you understand. After all, you are someone who has passed my test. Chapter 67-87. I'm here because I've heard some news. Bai Qingli's brows furrowed in seriousness and her voice deepened. There's a rumor going around that you have 2 lost pill formulas in your possession. As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions changed slightly. It was obvious that she was talking about the Buddha's Gilded Body pill and the Eternal Azure Spirit pill. I've heard about what had happened at the market. Shen Duanyu had purposely slandered you, but later on, the rumor turned into Master Ning's deliberate protection of you. The reason is because of these 2 pill formulas? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Bai Qingli nodded. That's right. Fuck, this must be Shen Duanyu's doing. That fellow is truly despicable and shameless. Yang Lingfeng cursed. He had thought that Shen Duanyu would stop after suffering such a loss. He never thought that not only would this fellow refuse to stop, he would even spread such a rumor. Even a fool would know that this news would benefit Shen Duanyu the most. Not only would it help him lessen the impact from before, it would also pour dirty water on them. It's not just us. This basin of dirty water has affected the 2 great masters as well. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Compared to their own situation, this was nothing much. After all, Shen Duanyu was an expert in these kinds of tricks. However, the 2 great masters were fair people, yet they had been given such a title. I didn't expect Shen Duanyu's speed to be so fast. Although we stopped in front of Master Ning's booth for a while, there shouldn't be many people who know about it. Who would have thought that this guy actually figured it out? Yang Qinxue looked worried. What should we do now? No one would dare to have any ideas about the lost pill formulas in the great master's hands. However, if everyone knows that you have the lost pill formulas, this matter will become complicated. Although most of the cultivators in the realm of chaotic immortals have not broken through to the elementary immortal stage, they were weak and alone. How could they possibly compare to the other party's strength in numbers? Once these people joined forces against them, even if her father were to intervene, they would not be able to stop them. Father is worried about this, which is why he asked me to inform you. Bai Qingli looked nervous. Why don't you stay with us for the next 2 days? Before more people find out, it'll be safer for us to stay together. Does that mean we can't go out for a few days? Yang Qinxue frowned. Based on the current situation, it's best not to go out. Otherwise there will be danger. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also understood the seriousness of the situation. In this small world there were many powerful cultivators. If they were not careful, not only would they be in trouble, even the people of Qingyang City and Xi'an City would be in trouble. If we don't leave the house, won't we be letting Shen Duanyu take advantage of us? Yang Lingfeng was unwilling. He couldn't accept letting this guy be so smug. At this moment, Di Beichen's voice rang out. He won't be proud for long. Everyone's gaze involuntarily turned towards him. Could it be that Beichen planned to thoroughly defeat him in the Array Master competition? Master Ning is not someone to be bullied. Di Beichen continued. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's right. Shen Duanyu might have dug a hole for himself. Chapter 6788. Yang Qingxue looked at the tacit understanding between the two of them and couldn't help but think about it carefully. She immediately understood. Based on their experience with Master Ning, he wasn't someone who was afraid of causing trouble, and his stingy personality was different from Master Shen's. Now that someone had put such a name on his head, it would be strange if he could tolerate it. So, we'll just wait and watch the show? Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang raised their eyebrows. Their expressions had already explained everything. Bai Qingli, who was originally extremely worried, was puzzled when she saw the four of them looking like they were waiting to watch a good show. What do you mean? You'll know when you see. Although they still had to be wary of other people coveting it, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were in a better mood when they thought about how Shen Duanyu would definitely suffer. Look, there are more people around the residence. Yang Lingfeng pointed at the figures outside the window, his eyes cold. Ever since Bai Qingli informed them of the news, he found that more and more cultivators were heading to this place. However, none of these cultivators took the initiative to come to the door. Instead, they stopped nearby to watch, as if waiting to see who would be the first to eat crabs. Even if Qingyang City's performance in the Array Master Conference had always been very good, it didn't mean that Qingyang City's strength was that bad. It wasn't a wise move to easily offend a city lord. However, the allure of two lost pill formulas was simply too great. The Buddha Gilded Body Pill was fine, but the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was extraordinarily precious. Usually, it had almost disappeared without a trace. Now that the man had appeared, if they missed it, it would be difficult to find him in the future. These guys won't gang up on us, right? Xiao He couldn't help but ask. That won't happen. Yang Lingfeng waved his hand. This is a serious crime of attacking a city lord. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to do it. Then what do we have to be afraid of? Xiao He asked in surprise. He was worried that these guys would surround them. When that time came, it wouldn't be easy to kill their way out of the encirclement. When we're in the house, the other party won't take the initiative to attack us. But if we go out, things will be different. As long as it's not in the bazaar, the grudges that happen in other places are considered personal grudges between cultivators. When the time comes, it'll be a real gang fight. Yang Lingfeng shrugged. That's why we can only stay here. We definitely can't go out. Thinking about being ganged up on by so many cultivators, that was really a dead end. This scene is strangely familiar. Xiao He's lips twitched slightly. Why did she feel like this wasn't the first time something like this had happened? Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little helpless. When she was in Penglai Palace, something like this had happened. She almost lost her life, but fortunately she made it through. Now that they were here, they had no interest in trying again. It's very safe to stay in the house, but I think father will be in trouble. Yang Qingshue's expression was complicated. She subconsciously looked upstairs. What do you mean? The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. Not to mention ordinary cultivators, even the city lord would not be able to ignore this benefit. Chapter 6789. Yang Qingxue was very familiar with this kind of routine. In short, this was indeed a big problem. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was not a very high-grade pill, but it could help a cultivator to refine the yuan power in their body, making it more condensed. This pill could be said to be suitable for any cultivator. However, as time passed, there were fewer and fewer people who had the pill formula. Now, although everyone knew about this pill, there were very few who had actually seen it. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill had appeared before. At that time it was sold at a very shocking price. Moreover, it was gone in the blink of an eye, which was very regrettable. It was because of this that they were so shocked when they found out that Hongzhuang had the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill formula. Coincidentally, I have a few Eternal Azure Spirit Pills in my hands. Why don't you give them to the city lord? Perhaps he'll have an easier time? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with thoughts. This matter was all because of her. Personally, she did not want to cause any trouble for others. You have the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill in your hands? Yang Qingxue cried out in surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I had wanted to give this pill to you before, but you refused. Refused? Refused? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's casual and calm look, Yang Qingxue and Yang Lingfeng hated that they could not take a brick and knock themselves unconscious. They had actually refused such a precious and rare pill. Was there something wrong with their brains? They could not help but recall the few times Hongzhuang had wanted to give them the pill. However, they thought that it was too difficult for Hongzhuang to refine the pill, so they had not accepted it. Until Hongzhuang had given them the Immortal Establishment pill because they really needed it, they did not refuse. However, it was only at this moment that they realized that the pills they had refused were so expensive. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Lingfeng and Yang Lingfeng's expressions and could not help but laugh. Refused the eternal azure spirit pill? If this news were to spread, everyone would think that these two had gone mad. Hong Zhuang, it's not easy for you to refine the pill. Yang Qinxue quickly recovered. Although she could not help but feel regret, she was more concerned. Let my father worry about it. It's just a little more effort, it's not a big deal. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. These pills are not difficult to refine. I don't want to keep causing trouble for City Lord Yang. I feel uneasy. What's there to feel uneasy about? It's fine. Yang Ling said nonchalantly. Yang Lingfeng's, Yang and Yang's expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were speechless. Was it really okay to trick his own father like this? Yes, Hongzhuang. Yang Qinxue saw Bailey Hongzhuang's stubbornness and couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't help but say, actually, we all know how difficult it is for you to refine pills, don't force yourself. Forced? Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled. I'm not forcing myself. Sigh. Yang Lingfeng sighed. Yang Lingfeng sighed. He understood that if he didn't expose this matter, it would be troublesome in the future. He said, we've already seen the failure rate of your alchemy. You should keep this alchemy pill that you've refined with great difficulty. With Hong Zhuang's terrible failure rate, who knew how many precious herbs she had to use to refine these pills, not to mention the effort. Chapter 6790. Bailey Hongzhuang had never understood why Yang Qinxue and Xiao Lingfeng would always politely refuse her when it came to pills. They would even faintly reveal a pained expression. After all, she was an alchemist herself. It was far more convenient for her to refine pills than to purchase pills from other alchemists. In addition, she needed to refine pills to improve her alchemy skills. It was simply a piece of cake for her. However, the two's attitudes were simply too strange. It was only at this moment that she finally understood. It turned out that the two of them had only confirmed all of this after witnessing her terrifying failure rate. They thought that it was not easy for her to refine pills. During this period of time, in order to successfully use the blood demon crystal in pills, she had been exploring the process. She had consumed countless herbs and her failure rate was also extremely terrifying. Recalling the scenes of her alchemy, she also understood why the two of them were so embarrassed. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Do you think that my failure rate is very shocking? Ahem ahem. Yang Lingfeng was a little embarrassed. In the end, he nodded hesitantly and explained, the pills you refine are more effective. It's normal for your failure rate to be higher. This time it was not only Bailey Hongzhuang who laughed. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and even Di Beichen had smiles on their faces. Looking at everyone's playful expressions, Yang Qinxue and Xiao Lingfeng were a little confused. What do you mean by this? Could it be that we've misunderstood? During this period of time, whenever they saw Hongzhuang refine pills, she had not succeeded at all. This failure rate was no longer frightening. It was simply horrifying, alright? You've misunderstood. Bailey Hongzhuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. My failure rate in refining pills is not so shocking. Master's success rate in refining pills is extremely high. Unless it's some pills that have never been refined before, the success rate for ordinary pills is at least above 80%, if not 100%, Xiao He said proudly. Its master was a true genius alchemist. Her talent in alchemy was even praised by Granny Hua. How could she be the lousy alchemist they thought she was? Yang Qinxue was stunned. Then, what we saw earlier. I happened to be studying how to add blood demon crystals into pills to improve the medicinal properties of the pills. Because I don't have much understanding in this area, I can only try by constantly refining pills. In the process of trying, the failure rate was naturally very shocking. The pill that I showed Grandmaster Ning before was something that I researched using these methods. As for the failure rate of my alchemy, it really isn't what you see. In the face of Bailey Hongzhuang's serious explanation, it was only at this moment that the siblings came to a sudden realization. It turned out that, when they encountered it, it was Hongzhuang who was researching and not seriously refining pills. Just the word research meant that it was destined to be a failure. It would not be easy to succeed. So, we've been mistaken all along? Yang Lingfeng's lips twitched. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled like a peach blossom in March. Yes. Hearing this affirmative answer, the siblings looked at each other and couldn't help but wail in their hearts. Chapter 6791. The siblings couldn't help but wail, but when they thought about it carefully, Hongzhuang had already told them this before, but they had believed it was the truth, so they didn't want to believe it. Heavens, how did I make such a stupid decision? Yang Lingfeng slapped his forehead, thinking that there was no one in this world who was more stupid than him. It's better to know now than later. Bai Qingli's eyes were full of smiles. Yang Qingxue only felt that her IQ was in the negative, and with Bai Qingli's eyes, she couldn't help but want to find a hole to crawl into. Now you can give the Dan to Mayor Yang without any worries. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, like a blooming lily, elegant and enchanting. Yang Lingfeng looked at the pill and couldn't help but ask weakly, I don't know if it's useless for me to take back my previous refusal? It wasn't that he was useless, but this pill was just too precious. He was almost certain that if he told his father that he had rejected the eternal azure spirit pill, his father would probably slap him directly to the wall and call him a wastrel. It's useful. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but don't worry about the pills inside. When I have time, I'll refine some more and give them to you. Hongzhuang, you're simply a little fairy. Yang Lingfeng's eyes bloomed with a bright light. His excited appearance was as if he had seen a fairy from the ninth heaven, basking in her grace and bliss. Just as he couldn't help but stretch out his hands, he suddenly felt a burning gaze fall on his hands. When he looked, he found that Di Beichen was silently looking at his hands, which he had nowhere to put. He immediately withdrew his hand in embarrassment. This was completely an expression of his mood. Di Beichen saw Yang Lingfeng obediently stand back. Only then did he withdraw his gaze, his mind thinking that he couldn't let this news be alone with Hongzhuang in the future. Recently he was becoming more and more unrestrained. Yang Qingxue couldn't help but laugh when she saw this. Compared to the somewhat eccentric little brother from before, this was his true temperament. It had been 5 whole years. His cheerful personality had finally returned. I'll go tell father now. Yang Lingfeng took the pills and walked towards Yang Han's residence. Presumably, his father already knew about the current situation and was having a headache. Since we can't go out, let's stay here and have a good rest. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She originally wanted to go to the market tomorrow, but now she could only wait to participate in the Array Master competition. Most importantly, she was worried that someone would not be able to restrain themselves from making a move against them after the Array Master competition was over. That would be the real trouble after they returned to Qingyang City. Although everyone had some doubts in their hearts, no one said anything. After all, the current situation was already troublesome enough. Because this matter was related to the 2 grandmasters, Ning Tian and Xin Xing, the group from Qingyang City that had been treated as a joke had become the center of attention. Many people began to inquire about the identities of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. They wanted to know if these 2 young people had any background. Chapter 6792. What kind of person was Ning Tian? What kind of person was Xin Xing? Anyone who had a certain level of understanding in this circle knew that neither Ning Tian nor Xin Xing liked to take advantage of others, let alone an unknown young man like Tang Weilin. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill's pill formula was indeed precious. This news indeed surprised everyone, but everyone knew the value of the Buddha Gilded Body Pill. Even if the other party really gave it to him for free, Ning Tian wouldn't accept it. Because with his reputation, a pill formula wasn't enough for him to ruin it. Moreover, this matter implicated Xin Xing. Compared to this, everyone was more curious about who these 2 young men were. It wasn't easy to make the 2 great masters regard them in a different light. The most important thing was that Xin Xing was willing to go against Jianghu Dao for the sake of Di Beichen. This matter revealed a lot of information and was worth thinking about. After Xin Duanyu released this news, he happily waited in his residence for news. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others wanted to fight him head-on. That was simply courting death. When the time came, he would use this matter to ruthlessly trample on the 2 great masters. Presumably, Master would also be able to vent his anger. However, he completely didn't expect Ning Tian's temper. After hearing this news, Xin Xing immediately went to find Ning Tian. He didn't know that there was such a deal between Ning Tian and Bailey Hongzhuang. Master Xin, Master has been staying in his room ever since he came back from the market. He even instructed us not to disturb him. This? Ning Tian's personal servant looked at Xin Xing awkwardly. He was very clear that his master had a close relationship with Master Xin. However, his master had previously instructed not to disturb him, so he didn't dare to rashly report it. A trace of thought flashed across Xin Xing's eyes, and he quickly understood. Thinking about it, Ning Tian had been studying Bailey Hongzhuang's pill ever since he came back, so he hadn't even heard of such an important matter. It's fine. There's no rush. Since it had already happened, he might as well let it ferment. It wouldn't be a bad idea to let Ning Tian deal with it after everyone knew about it. In any case, this fellow had never been afraid of trouble. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next day. Sunlight shone into the house through the window, and the tiny bits of sunlight brought warmth to the room. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes. Her sleepy appearance was a bit confused. When she raised her eyes, she saw a handsome face that could almost light up the whole sky like it was daytime. His deep and charming eyes were even more dazzling than the sun. "He's awake?" The man's low chuckle could be heard. His warm and broad palm caressed her face, revealing his warm concern. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She wanted to get up, but the man pulled her into his arms. Leaning against the man's warm chest, Bailey Hongzhuang took the opportunity to rest her head on his strong and powerful arms, and a faint smile bloomed on her face. "This matter hasn't been resolved yet. There are still many people watching us from the outside. We won't be able to leave today, so there's no need to rush." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. "You're right. Because of what happened yesterday, Qin Shui and the others were very worried. They also talked about it until very late last night. However, it was clear that there was no other way." Chapter 6793. Di Beichen hugged the little one in his arms. As soon as he lowered his head, he saw the little face that was deep in thought. Ripples also appeared in his deep black eyes. "If they come with us, we'll disguise ourselves and leave Qingyang City. Is that simple?" Bailey Hongzhuang thought carefully. "You're right. If they don't go, we'll go. It's just that it wasn't easy for us to get to know Qin Shui and the others. It's a bit of a pity to have to leave so soon." Di Beichen noticed the trace of reluctance in Bailey Hongzhuang's mood. His large hand grasped her soft little hand and he continued, "The limelight is at its peak right now. As long as we disappear for a while, they'll disperse if they can't find us. If you don't want to leave, we can go back to the clan first. It won't be too late to come back after the limelight has passed." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "You're still the smart one. Even if they appeared in Qingyang City again, they would still attract the attention of some people, but that would only be a small portion of people. They definitely wouldn't be watched by so many people like they were now." After the two of them had finished tidying themselves up, they heard the noise downstairs as soon as they opened the door. They couldn't help but look at each other and gradually frown. "It's because of these two guys that we can't even go to the bazaar now. It's already very troublesome that he offended Shen Duanyu. Yesterday he even purposely showed off. Now, everyone's going to be implicated by him." Fan Guangshuan and the others were full of resentment. Ever since they knew that they were being watched by so many people, they had been complaining everywhere. Now they could only stay here and couldn't go anywhere. They originally wanted to go to the bazaar and set up a stall to exchange for some things they needed. Now they couldn't even participate in this rare bazaar. This trip was practically a waste of time. Yang Qinshua's face grew darker and darker as she listened to Fan Guangshuan and the others speak more and more excessively. "Have you said enough?" Perhaps it was because they had never seen Yang Qinshua angry before, but her sudden roar shocked Fan Guangshuan and the others. "Can you guys stop complaining about others? Shen Duanyu isn't someone from Qingyang City. Beichen is our teammate, not to mention that Beichen wasn't responsible for what happened yesterday. If you like Shen Duanyu so much, then go and find him directly." Yang Qinshua's face was filled with unspeakable anger. She was already in a very bad mood after such a thing happened. She didn't expect that these guys would continue to talk nonsense here. It really made her unhappy. Along the way she had endured for a long time, but found that these guys did not stop at all. Fan Guangshuan and the others were stunned at first, and then their expressions became extremely ugly. After a while, Fan Guangshuan said, "Miss Yang, do you mean that we don't need to take your place in the competition?" "That's right, there's no need." It wasn't Yang Qinshue who said this, but Yang Lingfeng. "It's fine if you don't want to participate. Hurry up and find your Shen Duanyu. If your heart isn't there, what's the point of keeping you alive?" As soon as these words came out, the expressions of Fan Guangshuan and the others suddenly changed. They had been talking about this without restraint because Yang Qinshue and the others didn't blame them too much for this matter, so they had been very indifferent. Chapter 6794. If you want to stay, then don't say such meaningless nonsense. If you don't want to stay, we won't force you to stay. It's up to you. After Yang Qinshue said this, she pulled Yang Lingfeng upstairs, obviously unwilling to say anything else about this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stood at the top of the stairs until Yang Qinshue and her brother came up. "Sister, wasn't what I said very domineering?" Yang Lingfeng raised his eyebrows, looking proud. These guys are always nagging like girls, I'm really annoyed listening to them. Yang Qingxue rolled her eyes. You drove them all away, so this time only Beichen can participate in the competition? Isn't that what you mean? I'm just following your words. You idiot. Yang Qingxue was speechless. They are indeed very annoying, but if we can't even gather enough people for this competition, then we'll also become a joke. She said those words earlier in the hope that these guys would have some idea of what to do and not keep talking about this matter. However, she didn't expect Yang Lingfeng to be so straightforward, directly driving these guys away, so she softened her tone at the end. So that's not what you meant? Yang Lingfeng belatedly understood. Then what do we do now? What else can we do? Yang Qingxue spread out her hands. Let them be. If they really want to leave, we can't do anything about it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Lingfeng listened to this conversation, feeling helpless and amused at the same time. Qingxue had such a straightforward brother, she must be feeling very helpless. Sorry for the trouble. Yang Qingxue saw Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as she walked upstairs, and she knew that they had probably heard what she said before, so she waved her hand. It's fine. Actually, I don't think their array skills are as good as Beichen's. Anyway, we didn't get any good rankings in the previous array master competition. Even if they leave now, it won't affect the results. Maybe Beichen's results alone are better than all of them combined. Yang Lingfeng comforted himself. You're right. Yang Qingxue nodded, obviously agreeing with this point. In the afternoon, Fan Guangshuan left the group of Qingyang City. Before he left, his face was still filled with resentment. He looked at Di Beichen as if he wanted nothing more than to kill him directly. Yang Qingxue did not try to stop him. Since they had already said so much, if they were to ask him to stay now, Fan Guangshuan would be extremely proud of himself. Rather than keeping such a person alive, it would be better to let him leave. However, to their surprise, Shihai did not leave. They had originally thought that with the relationship between Fan Guangshuan and Shihai, the two of them would definitely leave together. Little did they know that Fan Guangshuan was also very angry about this. He had fully believed that Shihai would leave with him, but he had never thought that Shihai would directly refuse his request. No matter how he tried to persuade him, it was useless. He really could not take this lying down, so he left on his own. I really don't understand. There's no enmity between him and Beichen. Why does it seem like he's angrier than Shen Duanyu? Chapter 6795. Ever since Di Beichen became a participant of Qingyang City, Fan Guangshuan had been making all sorts of sarcastic remarks and was extremely rude. In comparison, Beichen was the one who had been too lazy to pay attention to him. Who would have thought that this guy would become more and more disagreeable? Perhaps it's because Beichen ignored him that he's even angrier, Yang Lingfeng mused. Compared to hostility, this kind of disregard was even more hurtful. Bailey Hongzhuang. You do have a point. Ignore him. If he leaves, then leave. Save him the trouble of helping others. Yang Qingxue narrowed her eyes. Everything else was fine, but she was more worried that this guy would become a spy for others. That would be the worst. Yang Han was also very calm after learning all this. Clearly, Yang Qingxue had already informed him of this before. Now that we're short of a spot, I'm afraid it'll be a bit troublesome. Yang Qingxue looked at Yang Han with a guilty conscience. Since it's already like this, then forget it. Yang Han was very open-minded. Right now, everyone's attention is on Beichen. Our Qingyang City rarely gets so much attention. It's not bad that we've become famous. Looking at Yang Han's casual appearance, everyone's mood immediately relaxed a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Both of them knew that Yang Han actually hoped that Beichen could achieve good results in this array master competition. He didn't care about the number of people, only the results. As long as Beichen could achieve good results, so what if there were fewer people? He didn't say it out loud, presumably because he didn't want to put pressure on Beichen. Qingli, do you have any other array masters who can participate? Yang Qingxue turned her gaze to Bai Qingli. At present, they had no other place to ask for help other than Shi Yunqing. I'll have to go back and ask. Bai Qingli thought for a moment. They did have some array masters, but their array skills weren't outstanding. Most importantly, Qingyang City could be said to be the most eye-catching team right now. Many people probably wouldn't be willing to join. They couldn't force others on this point. Yang Han patted his shoulder. If you don't want it, then don't force it. It's no big deal. I'll do my best. When Ning Tian came out of the room, the servants immediately went up to her. Master Shin came to see you. He came to find me? What did he say? Ning Tian was surprised. Master Shin is in the next room. Something happened yesterday. I think Master Shin is here because of this. The servant was well informed. In fact, almost everyone knew about such a big matter. However, since Master Shin was here, there was no need for him to say anything. Hearing this, Ning Tian immediately went to the house next door. Why are you looking for me? You're finally out. A smile appeared on Xin Xing's face when she saw Ning Tian. You're in trouble this time. Trouble? Ning Tian was stunned. I haven't even stepped out of the house. What trouble could I have caused? You're fine by yourself, but those two little ones can't even leave the house because of you, Xin Xing said in a nonchalant manner. Ning Tian immediately understood. Are you talking about the two little fellows at the market? I heard that you and Bailey girl exchanged for the eternal azure spirit pill. Chapter 6796. It must be that stinking brat under Jianghu Dao. Ning Tian narrowed his eyes, and a trace of anger spread in his heart. When they made the deal that day, there weren't many people paying attention. If it weren't for someone deliberately inquiring, it was impossible to know so much. And in the current situation, apart from Shen Duanyu, no one else would do so. I thought he'd stop after this incident, but now it seems that this brat really likes to cause trouble. Xin Xing paid attention to Ning Tian's expression and understood that this guy already had a plan in mind. He continued, now everyone is saying that Bailey girl used the eternal azure spirit pill's pill formula to bribe you, and I've been dragged into the water and accused of favoritism. What a joke. Ning Tian snorted coldly. Doesn't this mean that Jianghu Dao has been wronged? He really dares to say anything. Now those two little guys don't leave the house and many people are watching. If you don't deal with this matter properly, I won't let you go. Ning Tian looked at Xin Xing and understood that this guy completely regarded Di Beichen as one of his own, so he wouldn't allow him to suffer any grievances. Don't worry, I'll naturally deal with the trouble I caused. I'm going to teach that stinking brat a lesson today. Does he really think that Jianghu Dao can shelter him from the wind and rain? Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang was accompanying Di Beichen to study array formations. The competition was going to start the day after tomorrow, and Beichen was also happy to study at this time. The book that Grandmaster Shin gave him was very useful, and some of the introductions in it also enlightened him and benefited a lot. Right at this moment, a stranger appeared at their door. When they saw the newcomer, their bodies instantly tensed up, and they were ready to attack at any time. Young Master D. Miss Bailey, I'm Grandmaster Ning's servant. He asked me to invite you to the market. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. In fact, they had always believed that Ning Tian couldn't be doing nothing, but they also felt a little strange that there hadn't been any movement for so long. Now, was Ning Tian finally making a move? Yang Qingxue and Yang Lingfeng also rushed over to join in the fun. After knowing the purpose of their visit, they looked at the servants suspiciously. You're not deliberately tricking us, are you? With Beichen's current situation, if they went out now, they could be targeted at any time. The man chuckled, even if I had the guts, I wouldn't dare to use Grandmaster Ning's name to swindle others. That's true. Yang Lingfeng nodded slightly. Grandmaster Ning's reputation was no joke. At this moment, Yang Han also came down from upstairs. When he saw the person in front of him, his eyes lit up. What orders does Grandmaster Ning have? Seeing that Yang Han had confirmed the identity of the person, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not doubt him and immediately followed the man to the market. I wonder why Grandmaster Ning called us over? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. The servant smiled politely. Master has never been someone who would let others suffer losses. He said that this matter was caused by him, so he probably wants to solve it in public. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. She was a little curious, not knowing how Grandmaster Ning planned to deal with it. Chapter 6797. The news of Bailey Hongzhuang bribing Ning Tian had been fermenting for a day, and had spread like wildfire throughout the small world. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was the pill that everyone paid attention to. Coupled with the fact that it was related to Master Ning Tian and Master Xin Xing, it was impossible not to pay attention to it. Due to Ning Tian's personality, there were many people who had opinions about him. Now that something like this had happened, many people wanted to hit him while he was down and take the opportunity to smear his name. Don't be fooled by Ning Tian's sanctimonious appearance. Isn't he doing these little things behind the scenes? The reason why he usually ignores us is probably because he thinks that our gifts aren't good enough. What kind of treasure is the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill? TSK. This news has been out for so long, but there's still no news from Ning Tian. If he didn't have a guilty conscience, he would have come out to clarify things long ago. That's true. I really didn't expect this. When Ning Tian appeared, he heard the discussions around him and his expression immediately darkened. He had already guessed that these guys wouldn't have anything good to say, but he didn't expect their words to be so unpleasant. The originally noisy scene immediately quieted down with Ning Tian's appearance. The people who were discussing this matter all shut their mouths and didn't dare to say anything else. They were only worried that it would anger Ning Tian. Ning Tian snorted coldly and swept his cold gaze across the crowd. His eyes were filled with disgust. All the cultivators who were swept by this gaze couldn't help but feel guilty. They all averted their gazes and pretended that this matter had nothing to do with them. Ning Tian walked directly to Shen Duanyu's stall. Go and find that stinking brat Shen Duanyu. The cultivators who were looking at the stall were stunned when they heard this. When they looked up and saw that the person who spoke was Ning Tian, they didn't dare to say anything else. They didn't care about the stall and hurriedly ran outside. They were done for. Master Ning had personally come to find trouble. This wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Shen Xing looked at Ning Tian's ferocious appearance and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. After Shen Duanyu was reprimanded by Zheng Gudao, he didn't go out again. This matter had already angered his master. Naturally, he did not dare to stir up any more trouble in such a situation. Once he made his master unhappy, he would be in a terrible situation. Right at this moment, a flustered voice sounded from outside. Duanyu, I'm afraid this is going to be troublesome. Looking at the panting man, Shen Duanyu's expression changed slightly. What happened? Great Master Ning Tian is looking for you at the market. He wants you to go there now. The man's face was full of worry. I'm afraid that Grandmaster Ning already knows what we've done. What should we do? Shen Duanyu's mind was in a mess for a moment. In fact, he also thought that this matter might be discovered, but he felt that this kind of thing would only make things worse. Even if Master Ning knew about it, he would be helpless. But he didn't think that Master Ning would come directly to him. Don't panic. Shen Duanyu forced himself to calm down. Although we were the ones who released the news, he doesn't have any concrete evidence. Even if it's proven that we were the ones who said it, we'll deny it no matter what. We'll just say that we complained and there's nothing he can do about it. Chapter 6798. The originally anxious man calmed down a little when he heard Shen Duanyu's words. He nodded and said, You're right, we're just complaining. It's someone else who spread our words. It has nothing to do with us. You have to deal with this matter properly. You must not implicate us, Shen Duanyu exhorted. The man immediately understood. Don't worry, I'll make them bite this matter to death. Only then did Shen Duanyu relax. However, he did not head to the bazaar immediately. Instead, he went to look for Zheng Gudao. Facing Ning Tian as a junior, he would be at a disadvantage no matter what. If the other party used force to bully him, he would be completely helpless. However, if Master went, then the situation would be different. Because of the previous incident, Zheng Gudao still did not like Shen Duanyu too much. After all, he had caused him to lose face. However, when he heard Shen Duanyu say that Ning Tian wanted to use this matter to make an issue out of it, Zheng Gudao's face was filled with rage. Ning Tian really doesn't know when to stop. Wasn't it enough that the matter had reached this stage previously? Now, because of such a small matter, he's mustering so many people to call you over. Could it be that he thinks I'm easy to bully? Zheng Gudao's face was ashen. In his rage, he stood up directly. His eyes were burning with rage and his facial features were practically scrunched together. Shen Duanyu looked at Zheng Gudao's angry appearance and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did he completely relax. As long as he had Master's support, he did not need to worry too much. Let's go. Zheng Gudao's eyes were filled with a cold light. I'd like to see what Ning Tian wants to do. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived, they found that they had become the focus of everyone's attention almost instantly. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity as they focused their attention on them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked forward and noticed the two great masters. In reality, the gazes of the people in the bazaar were either on them or on the two great masters. It was really too easy to distinguish. Ning Tian, whose face had been ashen all this while as if everyone owed him money, finally smiled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appear. Come here. Ning Tian waved at them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately followed behind Yang Han. As soon as they arrived, Yang Han cupped his hands in greeting. Grandmaster Ning, Grandmaster Shen. Ning Tian nodded slightly. I still have some impression of you. You're the city lord of Qingyang City, right? Yang Han was pleasantly surprised as he heard this. His smile suddenly became even more brilliant. I never thought that Grandmaster Ning would remember me. I'm truly fortunate. Although he was a city lord, there were many cities in the chaotic immortal realm. It was an honor for Master Ning to remember him. You have good taste. Ning Tian glanced at Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, and her impression of Yang Han improved. Not only Ning Tian, but Xin Xing also had a good impression of him. Previously, they had already heard that although Di Baichen had come to participate in the competition, he had not even participated in the Array Formation Master Assessment. If it had been anyone else, Di Baichen would never have agreed to let him participate in the competition, but Yang Han did. Just this point alone was enough to show that he had a good eye for people. Chapter 6799. Please enter the text. Yang Han's words were very sincere. Setting aside the fact that Baichen and Hongzhuang were so outstanding, Hongzhuang had saved Ling Feng. Even if they didn't do anything here and cause trouble, he would still stand behind them unconditionally. A faint smile appeared on Xin Xing and Ning Tian's faces upon seeing Yang Han's expression. Grandmaster Ning, may I ask why you called us here? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to Master Ning's side. In fact, she had already guessed that Master Ning had called them here to spread the rumor, but after she came she found that Xin Duanyu was not here, which was a bit strange. What else could it be? It's obviously about that stinking brat's slander. Ning Tian's face darkened. I just went into seclusion to study pills. I didn't think that brat would dare to slander me like this. Bailey Hongzhuang. Grandmaster, you should pay attention to your image. Ahem, Xin Xing coughed dryly as if to remind Ning Tian that they were in full view of everyone. However, Ning Tian didn't seem to receive his reminder at all. Her face was still filled with anger. I've already sent someone to find that stinking brat. He should be here soon. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited quietly. With their status, no matter how they tried to explain this matter, it would only make things worse. However, with Grandmaster Ning's appearance, the matter would be easier to resolve. I'm afraid Xin Duanyu is in trouble now. With two Grandmasters appearing together, I'm afraid he won't be able to stop them. Do you think Xin Duanyu is telling the truth or not? Looking at Grandmaster Ning's angry appearance, I don't think that's the case. Who knows? Xin Duanyu is Grandmaster Jin's disciple. He shouldn't be able to speak without thinking, right? After this incident, no one, no matter if it was the stall owners or the customers, had any interest in buying or selling things. They were just waiting to watch the show. Fan Guangshuan didn't leave the small world after leaving the group in Qingyang City. At this moment he was also waiting in a corner to watch the show. When he heard that everyone was guessing that Xin Duanyu was trying to frame him, he couldn't help but say, "This is the truth." Otherwise, how could two people with no background be treated so favorably by the great master? You know the inside story? The cultivator beside him looked at Fan Guangshuan curiously. He remembered that he had seen Fan Guangshuan with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others before. Don't be fooled by the fact that these two fellows don't have any background. They're extraordinarily good at scheming behind the scenes. The city lord of Qingyang City has already been completely grasped by them. Their methods of buying people's hearts are simply amazing. Fan Guangshuan's eyes were filled with malice. Before Di Baichen appeared, City Lord Yang and the others had always been extremely polite to him. As soon as this guy appeared, his status plummeted. Because of this fellow, regardless of whether it was the City Lord, Young Miss, or Young Master, their attitude towards him had greatly changed. Later on, they had even spoken to him in such a manner. He was unwilling to accept this. He had to see Di Baichen fall from grace before he could vent the resentment in his heart. I didn't think it would be like this. I saw that this woman had the appearance of a foxy fox. Looks like I was right. Isn't that right? Who knows if they've used any other methods? Fan Guangshuan sneered. Chapter 6800. Please enter the text. The moment Xin Duanyu appeared, everyone's gazes landed on him. However, when everyone noticed Zheng Gudao behind him, each and every one of their expressions became interesting. With the three masters gathered together, the following excitement would probably be unprecedentedly exciting. When Ning Tian noticed the two people walking over, a trace of coldness appeared in her eyes. Zheng Gudao, this guy is really protective of his children, rushing over so quickly. He's always been like this. A trace of coldness also appeared in the eyes of the usually amiable Xin Xing when he saw that figure. His deep eyes became unfathomable with a faint storm sweeping through. Zhen Gudao brought Shen Duanyu to a stop in front of Ning Tian. The moment he opened his mouth, his tone was not polite at all. Ning Tian, why are you looking for my disciple? Seeing that the other party still dared to denounce her at a time like this, Ning Tian also sneered. Why am I looking for your disciple? Why don't you ask him what he did? Don't give me that. The previous matter has already been resolved. If you want to announce it to the world, it's up to you. If you still want to cause trouble because of this matter, I won't just stand by and watch. Zhen Gudao's aura was tyrannical. The previous matter had caused him to suffer a loss, and he had not been able to calm down for 2 consecutive days. Now that this guy was looking for trouble again, he naturally would not continue to be in the wrong. Don't pretend to be sanctimonious. Ning Tian lazily threw out a sentence. Facing the righteous and outspoken Zhen Gudao, she directly gave him a pretentious evaluation. It was just a simple word, but it immediately caused Zhen Gudao to break down. What am I pretending to be? You know very well in your heart. Ning Tian's face was full of disdain. You didn't succeed in slandering yourself, so you want to trap all of us. Why don't you think about how big your face is? Are you worthy? Are you worthy? The provocative words, coupled with Ning Tian's extremely arrogant expression, were simply destructive. Zhen Gudao's face alternated between green and white. His chest rapidly rose and fell due to his anger, as if he had countless words to refute, but for a moment he did not know what to say. This kind of feeling was similar to a scholar meeting a soldier, unable to reason with him clearly. Grandmaster Ning. Is his personality usually so fiery? Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head to look at Yang Qinxue. Although she had already expected that Master Ning wouldn't be so kind after encountering such a situation, but this kind of explosive power, it really didn't seem like something a master would do. Not to mention that Zhen Gudao couldn't win against Ning Tian. Even if Xin Xing and Zhen Gudao worked together, their combat strength still couldn't compare to Ning Tian. Yang Qinshua's lips twitched as she said, "This is probably what they mean by, those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who wear shoes." Zhen Gudao still cared about his status as a grandmaster in front of everyone, so even though his words were filled with anger, they were always reasonable and not too excessive. But Ning Tian clearly didn't fall into this category. He didn't care about this at all. But this personality, I quite like it. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She could already see the characteristics of such a master's personality when she exchanged with him earlier. Ning Tian, don't go too far. Zhen Gudao was unable to restrain his rage and simply almost fainted from this anger. Chapter 6801. Please enter the text. I've provoked you? Zhen Gudao was about to die from anger. From beginning to end, this entire matter had nothing to do with Ning Tian, alright? Now Xin Xing was simply the one who stood out. You've already dealt with the previous matter, and now you're looking for my disciple to settle scores. You're the unreasonable ones. At the same time, Shen Duanyu's face was pale, and his expression was full of worry. I've already apologized for the previous matter, and I definitely won't accuse others so easily in the future. Isn't that enough? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Shen Duanyu, this brat, was quite good at retreating in order to advance. Unfortunately, if this kind of play was used against Xin Xing, there might be some possibility, but against Ning Tian? Stop pretending, you stinking brat. A man still has the nerve to pretend to be wronged. I simply want to beat you up. Ning Tian's face was full of disgust. Shen Duanyu was completely dumbfounded. He had already decided to come today to pretend to be innocent. No matter what the other party said, he just had to deny it to death. But this Master Ning's personality, wasn't it a little too strange? The matter that day has already been investigated clearly. There's nothing wrong with D. Baichen's array stone. The reason we didn't directly drive you out of the Array Masters Association is already showing mercy to your subordinates, but you're still not satisfied. You actually said that Xin Xing and I took bribes to help them target you. Ning Tian sneered. Who do you think you are? With my status, do I need to target a small fry like you? As Ning Tian's voice fell, Zhen Gudao's expression also changed a little. So Ning Tian didn't call Shen Duanyu back today for the previous matter, but for another matter? Shen Duanyu's expression changed slightly. This matter has nothing to do with me. Zhen Gudao, your disciple is truly incredible. Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and sneered. You still refuse to admit it at such a time. Ning Tian, don't speak nonsense without evidence. What evidence do you have to prove that this matter was leaked by Duanyu? If I say it's him, then it's him. Do I need evidence? Ning Tian said disdainfully. Simply unreasonable. Jianghu Dao was furious. This was the reason why he was usually unwilling to provoke this guy. Because this guy was completely unreasonable. No matter what he said, he couldn't win against him. Instead, he was angering himself to death. At this moment, Xing also spoke up. Originally, that matter had already been resolved, but this news was later released, saying that Ning Tian had accepted a bribe from Bailey Hongzhuang and was trying to frame us. Anyone with a brain would be able to figure out who was the one who had spread the news. It doesn't really matter whether you admit it or not. Xing's expression was calm and composed, as if this matter had nothing to do with him at all. However, it was that calm tone that made the final decision, directly concluding that this matter was related to Xin Duanyu. Jianghu Dao slowly glanced at Xin Duanyu. Although he originally didn't know about this matter, based on his understanding of Xin Duanyu, it was very likely that he was the culprit. This guy was simply an idiot. Not only had he wronged Di Beichen, but he had also wronged the two masters. Even a fool would know that the consequences were not something he could bear. Chapter 6802. Please enter the text. If I had to protect one person just because of a pill formula, then I don't know how many people I would have to protect all these years. Ning Tian's sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through one's soul. Under such a gaze, Xin Duanyu could only lower his head. This feeling of having nowhere to hide caused him to break down. He had originally made up his mind to deny it, but in this kind of situation, it seemed so meaningless. This was the difference in the background of the two sides. The other party was a grandmaster. No matter what he said, it would seem to be true, while all his explanations would seem to be just sophistry. Since you like to say that I'm protecting them so much, then fine. Ning Tian's voice paused slightly. Everyone also looked at him in confusion, not understanding what he meant by this. Then I'll do as you wish. Everyone listen up. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are my people from now on. If anyone dares to have any ideas about them, then they're going against me. I can ignore the previous stalking and following, but if something like this happens again in the future, I'll let him know what the price is. Ning Tian's voice was not very loud, but these words carried an unparalleled domineering aura when they came out of his mouth. Everyone could even feel a dense murderous aura. The cultivators who had been thinking about how to snatch the pill formulas from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands almost instantly gave up on that idea. Because the price of offending Ning Tian was far greater than the value of the two pill formulas. Xin Duanyu raised his head in shock. The reason he had released this news was to let everyone target Di Beichen and Xin Duanyu. As for involving Ning Tian, on one hand he wanted to vent his anger for himself. On the other hand he wanted to make his master happier. However, he had never thought that his actions would instead help Bailey Hongzhuang and Xin Duanyu find a backer. Although Ning Tian was usually not very outstanding, and everyone usually knew more about Xing and Jianghu Dao, those who knew more about them knew that Ning Tian was the most difficult person to provoke among the three of them. Not only was he a formation master, but he was also an alchemist. In addition, it was said that his background was also unfathomable. It was precisely because of this that his personality was so eccentric, but no one dared to offend him. Now that Ning Tian had said something like that in front of everyone, it was obvious that she was determined to protect Di Beichen. Fan Guangshuan had been waiting for a good show. He did not believe that the two masters would really protect Di Beichen. However, when he heard these words, his expression instantly became extremely ugly, as if he had eaten mustard. Since Ning Tian had said so in front of everyone, there was no way she could change her mind. Di Beichen had only come to the market to set up a stall, and he had gained such a strong backing. What kind of luck was this? When Shihai and the others saw this scene, they could not help but feel shocked. Fortunately, he did not leave with Fan Guangshuan. From the previous point of view, Di Beichen's status was simply not comparable to Xin Duanyu's, but after Master Ning's words, the situation was completely different. Di Beichen and Xin Duanyu's status had changed. Their status had clearly surpassed Xin Duanyu's. Furthermore, from Ning Tian's performance, he was much more protective than Jianghu Dao. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This situation had clearly exceeded their expectations. They never thought that it would be resolved like this. Chapter 6803. Because Ning Tian's words were too intimidating and effective, the entire bazaar fell into a strange silence. What followed was the exclamations of the crowd. Burning gazes fell on Di Beichen and Ning Tian, thinking that these two fellows' luck was too good. Normally they would try their best to establish a relationship with these two masters, but it was completely useless. These two fellows had only come to the Formation Master competition for the first time, and they had already become Master Ning's direct disciples. The speed was really amazing. However, everyone's gazes fell on Shen Duanyu. This whole thing really couldn't have been separated from his assistants. If it weren't for Shen Duanyu, Di Beichen and Ning Tian would have only met once and had some impression of Ning Tian. However, because of this pill formula, everyone was staring at Di Beichen and Ning Tian. If Ning Tian hadn't stood up, they probably wouldn't have been able to keep their lives. Now that Ning Tian had stood up, the effect was really enviable. Shen Duanyu's face was pale at first, but when he realized what all this meant, his face had already become deathly pale. He simply couldn't understand how this perfectly fine matter had turned out like this. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Ning Tian's gaze turned to Zheng Gudao and he said, "Don't say that I didn't give you face. If it weren't for you, this brat would have disappeared from this world long ago." He turned to look at the pale-faced Shen Duanyu and said, "It's useless to play these tricks in front of me. If you have the ability, then show it openly. I've stayed in the chaotic immortal realm for so many years, and I've never seen anyone who could rely on these little tricks to ascend." Ning Tian only felt that this gaze was directly stabbing into his spine, and his body was somewhat unsteady. This time he had really done all this for nothing. "What you do is your business. Let's go." Zheng Gudao's face was cold. Due to Ning Tian's background, he couldn't directly attack Ning Tian. Continuing to stand here was nothing but a joke. It was better to just leave. Shen Duanyu hurriedly followed behind Zheng Gudao and left. Even after they had walked far away, he still felt that the gaze behind him hadn't dissipated. Yang Qingxue and the others all smiled at the same time. It was a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? Yesterday they were still extremely worried about whether or not they would be ambushed on the road. They didn't expect the situation to be completely reversed today. Even if everyone knew that this pill formula was in their hands, the average person would not dare to take the risk to find trouble. It was good to lean against a big tree and enjoy the shade. This kind of thing was the same no matter where. Many thanks to Grandmaster Ning for helping us out. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen thanked him. Ning Tian waved his hand. "This whole thing started because of me. I thought those guys would keep their mouths shut, but I didn't expect them to be a bunch of useless people." Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood that Ning Tian's way of explaining the situation was to confirm her claim. When most people encountered such a situation, they would think about how to explain the situation clearly. However, Ning Tianzi was completely different. His attitude was that this was how it was, and what could they do about it? However, it had to be said that the effect of this kind of solution was indeed extraordinary. Xin Xing smiled and said, "Don't worry. Although this guy's words aren't very nice, his words are still very useful." Chapter 6804. Thank you, Grandmaster Shen. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Even she felt that their luck was extraordinarily good. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are incredible. In the blink of an eye they have two Grandmasters backing them. Won't Di Beichen have a meteoric rise in the ranks of array masters in the future? I just remembered that I know Qingyang City's Shihai. I have to find a way to make friends with him. Qingyang City is in the limelight this time. They haven't had any achievements in array formations for so many years. Now that they've finally achieved something, they'll be incredible in the future. At that moment, everyone understood that even if Qingyang City couldn't achieve anything in the competition this time, they definitely wouldn't be last place like before. Most of the time, it was this one thing that could change everything. Fan Guangshuan stood in place in a daze and couldn't help but regret his decision to leave. If he hadn't left, he would have been the target of everyone's flattery, but now, it was like a joke. Why hadn't Shihai left? At that moment, Fan Guangshuan suddenly realized that he was the one who had suffered the most from the beginning. "Bailey lass, I've studied your pill after I went back. Did you increase the effect of the pill after adding the blood demon crystal?" After dealing with the matter, Ning Tian's interest was piqued. He'd been studying the pill since he'd returned yesterday, so he was very clear about its composition. However, knowing the composition and refining it were two different things. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "That's right. Blood demon crystals actually have such an effect. It's really surprising." Ning Tian's eyes were filled with interest. "I've heard of people trying to use blood demon crystals to refine elixirs. However, the elixirs they refined were not as effective as yours. Furthermore, there were very few types of elixirs. I saw that they had only achieved this result after tinkering for so long, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. However, whether it is the type or the medicinal effect of your pill, it is different from theirs. Does this mean that this method will work on other pills? At this point, not only Ning Tian, but even Xin Xing's eyes were filled with anticipation. Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I have tried to refine several kinds of pills. As long as the blood demon crystal is chosen correctly and the refining method is right, it will succeed. Is that so? Ning Tian's eyes lit up. This was a huge discovery in alchemy. The refining method is... Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to tell Ning Tian the method, the latter suddenly raised her hand. Don't tell me. Let me figure it out myself. It's not easy to come across something interesting. Naturally, I have to do some research on my own. Ning Tian smiled. Normally I'm a little bored. You don't have to worry about it. He's always liked to research things on his own, Xin Xing said with a faint smile. If you tell him directly, he'll find it boring. Bailey Hongzhuang. Ning Tian was a master who never played by the rules. The competition is going to begin the day after tomorrow. Are you ready? Xin Xing turned to Di Beichen. I'm going to do my best, Di Beichen replied. Xin Xing nodded. With your power of understanding, as long as you spend some time researching, your results will definitely not be bad. Chapter 6805. Taking advantage of the time when the market was being held, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen bought a lot of things that they needed. Although Yang Han had given away the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill as a favor, he had not given it away for free. He had received money for it. As for the money, it naturally fell into the pockets of the two of them. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill had been lost for many years, and there was no market for it at auctions. Thus, its price was naturally extremely high. Aside from the blood spirit stones that they needed for their daily cultivation, the two of them had practically used all of their blood spirit stones to buy this kind of resource. After Zheng Gudao returned, he once again gave Xin Duanyu a torrent of abuse. It was precisely because he knew that Ning Tian was a stubborn person that he had previously warned Xin Duanyu not to cause any more trouble. However, he had not expected that this brat would actually use such a move. If this kind of move was used against other people, the effect would not be bad, but against Ning Tian, it was completely useless. Because that guy had never cared about these things from the beginning to the end. When it came to trying to cover up something, the more you tried to cover it up, the more you tried to cover it up. He would often directly blacken the matter to the extreme, so that others would no longer have any other reason to continue blackening it. Now, what I'm saying is completely meaningless to you, is it? Zheng Gudao looked at Xin Duanyu with a gloomy expression. Although he had been very unyielding in today's matter and had not admitted it from the beginning to the end, after Ning Tian's words, whether he said it or not seemed to have already become meaningless. Everyone had already firmly believed all of this. Xin Duanyu's face was pale. He also understood how angry this matter had made his master. How could he have thought that things would actually turn out like this in the end? Master, I won't dare to do it again. Xin Duanyu lowered his head, his face full of guilt. He understood that in this kind of situation, there was already no meaning in denying it to death. Instead, it would make his master loathe him even more. This time he had really suffered a double loss. After being thwarted twice in a row, it was practically impossible to win against his senior brother. I did this because I wanted to vent Master's anger, but I didn't think that Master Ning would. You didn't think? What can you think of? Before Xin Duanyu could finish speaking, Zheng Gudao had already roared out, I've already warned you repeatedly not to cause any more trouble. At this critical juncture, you've caused this kind of trouble time and time again. Now, everyone already knows about the foolish things you've done, and even I have become a joke. Zheng Gudao was like an enraged lion, no longer having his usual image of an expert. Xin Duanyu looked at Zheng Gudao in astonishment. This was his first time seeing his master throw such a huge tantrum. Master, I really won't dare to do it again. Xin Duanyu said in a panic. For some reason he had an ominous premonition. This feeling made him panic for no reason and his heart turned cold. Indeed, there won't be a next time. Zheng Gudao calmed down somewhat, his gaze becoming resolute. Xin Duanyu looked up in astonishment. Master, what do you mean? From today onwards you are no longer my disciple. Zheng Gudao's expression was indifferent, and his cold voice did not contain the slightest bit of warmth. All of the master-disciple relationship had already dissipated like smoke in his eyes at this moment. After Xin Duanyu heard these words, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked at Zheng Gudao in disbelief. For a moment, he only thought that he must have heard wrongly. Chapter 6806. I've made up my mind. You can move out of here today. Zhen Gudao's expression was icy cold, without the slightest hint of affection. When he had taken Shen Duanyu in as a disciple, he had only felt that Shen Duanyu was intelligent and pleasing to the eye in every aspect. Now that something like this had happened, he only felt that Shen Duanyu was displeasing to the eye everywhere. He simply could not understand why he had chosen him back then. Shen Duanyu knelt down with a plop. Master, this disciple will never dare to do it again. Please forgive this disciple. No matter what Master says in the future, this disciple will obey without question. I will never, there's no need to say anything more. You can leave. Zhen Gudao waved his hand impatiently, even looking at Shen Duanyu for an extra second was irritating. The next moment he strode out of the room. Standing in front of the door, his voice rang out once more, leave this place before today. After saying this, Zhen Gudao left without looking back. Shen Duanyu sat on the ground with his legs limp. Everything that had happened today made him feel like he had fallen into a dream. Master had actually given up on him. How was he any different from before when he had lost this identity? Duanyu, are you all right? The man who had been following Shen Duanyu quickly rushed over when he saw Zhen Gudao leave in a huff. As soon as he entered, he saw the soulless Shen Duanyu and his heart was filled with worry. I'm finished? Shen Duanyu murmured, his eyes completely dim, like a puppet that had lost its soul. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their residence, they had been waiting for news from Bai Qingli. There were currently only 2 of the 3 spots for the competition. If it was possible, it would be best if they could get another one. However, Bai Qingli had already asked the formation masters over there and helplessly found that no one could help out in the competition. Why don't I go back and ask again? After the masters make this announcement tomorrow, there should be more people who are willing to take part in the competition. A thoughtful look flickered in Bai Qingli's eyes. Previously, with Qingyang City's situation, the majority of people were unwilling to join, but now that Qingyang City had become the honored guests of the 2 masters, the situation was completely different. Normally, many people wanted to establish a relationship with the 2 masters, but it was harder than ascending to the heavens. Now, joining Qingyang City's team was undoubtedly the best method. As long as this news was released now, not to mention the formation masters in their city, even the formation masters in other cities would take part. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Now that the environment is completely different, I believe it won't be a problem. Such was the situation. When you were at a disadvantage, it was already good enough that people did not hit you when you were down. However, once you held your head high, the situation would be completely different. Not to mention whether Qingyang City would be able to achieve good results in the competition this time. As long as they were able to establish this relationship, it would already be extremely good. Should we spread the news? Yang Qingxue asked. No need. Yang Han's voice suddenly rang out. The situation is different now. If we release the news at this time and invite others to participate, it will make us seem arrogant because we are favored. It will be very disadvantageous for us to purposely ride on the fame of the 2 masters. Chapter 6807. As Yang Han's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and felt that what he said was very reasonable. If it were any other day, it would be extremely difficult to find an array master to participate in the competition. If the news were to spread now, it was likely that some of the more powerful array masters would come. This matter might not be a big deal to them, but if it made the 2 masters unhappy, it would not be worth it. Anyway, no matter what the result was this time, they were already famous. Uncle is right. It is indeed not suitable to do this now. Bai Qingli replied. Then we might as well participate in the competition with 2 people. Yang Lingfeng agreed. In fact, he was also unwilling to recruit others from the bottom of his heart. This kind of hypocrisy makes me feel annoyed just by looking at it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This kind of thing was a matter of Qingyang City. The city lord could make the decision, and they had no objections. Then it's decided. Yang Han smiled. This time he no longer cared about the results of the competition. Because just getting to know the 2 masters was already very worth it. At this moment, Di Beichen suddenly said, if that's the case, why don't we let Hongzhuang participate? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. They looked at Di Beichen in astonishment, their minds a little muddled. Ah. Yang Lingfeng was dumbfounded. You're saying to let Hongzhuang participate? But she's an alchemist. Yang Qingxue was also puzzled. Could it be that Hongzhuang knows array techniques? Bai Qingli's reaction was slightly better than the 2 of them, but her face was still full of doubt. Beichen? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in confusion. She did not expect him to make such a suggestion. Hongzhuang has also learned array techniques, but her main focus is not in this area. Di Beichen explained slowly. His deep black eyes were like the ocean at night, carrying a little ripple. Since we're short of a place and we're not willing to find one from outside, why don't we let her try as a kind of experience? I'm afraid I can't do that. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little embarrassed. When Beichen was learning array techniques, she had also been learning from him. However, just as he said, she spent most of her time studying alchemy. Her skill in alchemy was obviously incomparable to Beichen's. You know a lot of array formations and the real effects you create aren't bad. Di Beichen's eyes were gentle. Haven't you always been interested in it? After hearing all this, Yang Han had no choice but to reveal a deep smile in his eyes. I didn't expect Hongzhuang to also know array techniques. Since that's the case, you'll take this spot in the competition. No matter how good your array techniques are, as long as you have the certificate, it's fine. Anyway, the empty spot is empty. When the final ranking of the city is calculated, the total score will be taken into account. It's better to participate than not. As long as you participate, your score will be higher. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also fell into hesitation. She did not expect that the final ranking of the city would be calculated based on the total score. Hongzhuang, if you're interested, you can try it out. Anyway, everyone knows that you're an alchemist. Even if you don't perform well, it doesn't matter. Yang Qinxue said. In this kind of situation, everyone would at most laugh at their city for not having an array master. They would not be too harsh on Hongzhuang. Chapter 6808. If you don't want to participate, then forget it. Di Beichen lowered his head and said gently. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at the man's tilted head. His beautiful eyes were like thousands of pear blossoms, filled with endless warmth. She had always understood that Beichen had never wanted to force her. He had only suggested this because she was also interested in array techniques. Apart from refining pills, she would spend the rest of her time studying array techniques with Beichen, just like how Beichen would sometimes study pill refining with her. Beichen is right. Hongzhuang, don't feel pressured. This isn't a big deal in the first place. Yang Lingfeng spread out his hands. Our city has always been at the bottom of the rankings. No matter how bad it is, it can't be any worse than before. Yang Han silently glanced at his son. This guy really didn't give him any face when he spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her head, the corners of her lips slightly raised. All right then. You agree? Yang Lingfeng asked excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I just hope that you won't be sad when my skills fall short. Don't worry, that won't happen. Yang Lingfeng waved his hand casually. In the blink of an eye, the Array Master competition finally began. On this day, Di Beichen and the others had already gotten up early and followed Yang Han to the location of the competition. Ever since Ning Tian had made the announcement in front of everyone, the door to Qingyang City's residence had been practically broken open. Many people came to visit City Lord Yang every day, trying to befriend Di Beichen and Yang Lingfeng as well. Almost everyone living in the residence had become a hot commodity in everyone's eyes. It was worth mentioning that after this change, they also noticed Fan Guangshuan's figure loitering near the residence. They could see his regret from the hesitation on his face, but no one paid him any attention. For a fence-sitter like him, even if he was allowed to blend in, his nature would not change in the future. It would only happen again. I've already changed the contestant's name card. Hongzhuang's name card has already been handed over. A smile appeared on Yang Han's face. Changing contestants also required a process. If it was in the past, he would definitely encounter many obstacles when doing such a thing. However, when he went to handle this matter yesterday, he found that the situation was completely different from usual. Everything was unusually smooth and there was almost no need for him to do anything. The matter had already been resolved. City Lord Yang, do you know how the competition will proceed? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Originally, she wasn't too worried about this because Beichen's strength was unquestionable. Now that she was going to participate in the competition, she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Although the rules of the competition are different every time, there are generally two types of rules. Usually, all the arrays are made of the same type of array stone, and then the score will be judged based on the quality of the array stone. Then will the grade of the array stone be high? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Her array skills were a level lower than Beichen's, so if she wanted to make a high-grade array stone, wouldn't it be terrible if she wasn't skilled enough? Chapter 6809. As the group of people arrived at the competition venue, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be shocked as she looked at the huge stage in front of her. The area of the martial arts stage was far larger than they had imagined. At this moment, the circular spectator stands around the martial arts stage were already filled with people. Their appearance was like a drop in the ocean, so small that they couldn't cause any ripples. Master, I seem to have underestimated the scale of the competition. Xiaohei looked around. Under such circumstances, standing on the stage would attract the attention of thousands of people. There are many cities in the chaotic immortal realm. The number of participants in the competition must be very shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were dark and gloomy. Such a big event was like a huge stage. It was extremely difficult to get a ranking here, however they had obviously underestimated their influence. When the group from Qingyang City appeared, quite a few people noticed their existence. Everything that had happened in the past few days had already spread like wildfire. Even those who were not well informed had heard a little bit of it, so one could imagine the effect it had on them. Brother Yang, over here. Bai Ziyuan waved at Yang Han from the high platform not far away. The empty seats beside him were obviously reserved for them. Yang Han smiled faintly and led the group over. You guys are in the limelight this time. As soon as they arrived, Bai Ziyuan's voice filled with emotion rang out. This is all thanks to Beichen and Hongzhuang. I'm just taking advantage of the limelight. Yang Han spread out his hands. In fact, all of this had nothing to do with him. It was all because of the two little guys. Bai Ziyuan's eyes were full of envy. He also wanted to make friends with the two masters. However, there were too many people trying to find ways to make friends with them. It was very difficult for him to show his face in front of the two masters. Yang Han didn't need to say anything. When he thought back to when Beichen wanted to participate in the competition, he couldn't help but regret it. If he had known this would happen, he would have let Beichen participate even if he had to give up all the spots. Unfortunately, he could only keep this gloominess in his heart. However, it was still very good that Beichen was representing Qingyang City in the competition. Oh right, look over there. Bai Ziyuan raised his eyebrows and gestured at the spectators stand diagonally opposite. Everyone looked in that direction and discovered that Jianghu Dao was currently on that viewing platform. However, the people standing beside him were all people they did not recognize, and there was no sign of Shen Duanyu. What's going on? Yang Lingfeng was a little puzzled. Could it be that Shen Duanyu's punishment was so severe that he didn't want to participate this time? I don't think so. His mastery of formations is quite good, otherwise he wouldn't have been accepted as a disciple by Grandmaster Zhen, Yang Qingxue said hesitantly. Bai Ziyuan chuckled and looked to the other side. Shen Duanyu is over there. Di Beichen turned his gaze and discovered that Shen Duanyu was at a place rather far away from Jianghu Dao, and that hateful gaze of Shen Duanyu's landed on him. Casually glancing over, Di Beichen calmly shifted his line of sight. This guy's anger did not affect him in the slightest. Chapter 6810. It's already like this, don't tell me you still can't guess? Shen Duanyu is no longer a disciple of Jianghu Dao? Yang Han asked. Bai Ziyuan nodded slightly. It is said that after Grandmaster Ning caused such a ruckus, Jianghu Dao directly expelled Shen Duanyu from the sect. Although this news was covered up by them, there is no such thing as an airtight wall, so it inevitably spread. Shen Duanyu is usually so arrogant because he climbed up this big tree Jianghu Dao. Now that he no longer has this backing with his usual arrogant appearance, I'm afraid he will have a lot of trouble. Bai Qingli's tone was cold and indifferent. The reason why he had fallen to such a state was all because he had walked step by step. Serves him right. Xiao Bai sneered, his face full of joy. At this moment, a voice sounded from behind them. Brother Yang, the effect of your eternal azure spirit pill is really excellent. Everyone turned their heads and saw a familiar figure. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not know this person, but they knew that this person had appeared in their residence before. City Lord Lu, what a coincidence. Lu Yifan looked at Yang Han with a smile. I came here today to thank you. Thank you? Yang Han was a little puzzled. Lu Yifan nodded slightly, unable to hide the excitement on his face. I have been trapped in this realm for a long time, unable to find the threshold to break through, but who would have thought that after taking this eternal azure spirit pill, I actually faintly felt the existence of a bottleneck. As soon as these words came out, Yang Han and the others were dumbfounded. As city lords, their strength was actually not much different. For so many years, not only Lu Yifan, but all of them had never slacked off in their cultivation, but wanting to take another step forward was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Their origin chi was constantly gathering, but their dantian was like a river that flowed into the sea. There was no day when it was filled. However, Lu Yifan had actually touched a bottleneck, which meant that there was hope for him to break through. Then I really must congratulate City Lord Lu. Yang Han cupped his hands in congratulations, but he could not help feeling envious. For them, even a trace of an opportunity to break through was incomparably precious. This is all thanks to City Lord Yang's generosity. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have the chance to touch peace. Lu Yifan smiled proudly. If you need this Lu's help in the future, just say the word and this Lu will do his best. City Lord Lu, you're too polite. Actually, I'm just doing you a favor. This medicinal pill was refined by Miss Bailey. Yang Han gestured to Bailey Hongzhuang who was beside him. He could not take the credit for such a big contribution. Moreover, he had already noticed that from the moment Lu Yifan appeared, his gaze had fallen on Hongzhuang from time to time. Lu Yifan's eyes lit up as he heard this. So this is Miss Bailey. Since ancient times, heroes have always come from the young. For Miss Bailey to have such achievements at such a young age, it's no wonder that she won the favor of Grandmaster Ning. Mayor Lu, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and said, I really have to thank you for this medicinal pill. If you have time in the future, you must come to our Ninghua city as a guest. Lu Yifan sincerely invited. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Many thanks for City Lord Lu's kindness. If there is a chance, we will definitely come. Chapter 68:11. Only after Lu Yifan left did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others take their seats. Hongzhuang, Brother Yang sold all of your Eternal Azure Spirit pills to the other city lords. I didn't even have the time to buy them. If you still have them, you have to leave one for me. My price will definitely not be lower than anyone else's. No, I can offer a higher price. Bai Ziyuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an extremely serious expression. When he first heard the news, he wanted to buy one, but when he thought about how terrible Qingyang City's situation was at that time, he couldn't help but think about it. Selling the Eternal Azure Spirit pills at a time like this was also to build a good relationship with the other cities. Naturally, he couldn't buy them at a time like this. Originally, he thought that once he had the chance he would definitely mention this matter to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Lu Yifan said this, he was even more eager. He had been stuck in this realm for too long. If the Eternal Azure Spirit pills could help Lu Yifan reach the threshold, perhaps it could also help him reach this step. Yang Han's eyes were also burning with passion. The effects of this pill seemed to be better than they thought. Seeing how serious Bai Ziyuan was, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, City Lord Bai, don't worry. Once I go back and refine the Eternal Azure Spirit pills, it will be fine. Originally, I only had a few Eternal Azure Spirit pills, but due to the situation I gave them to City Lord Yang. After coming to this small world, I've been quite busy, so I can't take care of these things for the time being. As long as I have time, I will do it as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a gentle smile. She was very clear about the effects of this pill. The longer a cultivator cultivated, the better the effects would be. Once their yuan qi became purer, their strength would increase. Hearing this, Bai Ziyuan was relieved and his eyes were filled with gratitude. Then I'll thank you in advance. City Lord Bai, there's no need to be so polite. On the high platform, the leader of the city lords, Qin Jian, had already appeared. Welcome everyone to the Decennial Array Master Competition. I am Qin Jian. As soon as Qin Jian spoke, the originally bustling spectator stands immediately fell silent. Numerous gazes looked towards Qin Jian in unison. This year's array formation competition will be presided over by me and 5 other array formation grandmasters. In a fair and just manner, we will select the most outstanding young array formation grandmasters. The city you represent will also receive glory because of your performance. The top 100 array masters will receive a common reward from all the major cities. The top 10 cultivators will be given the opportunity to comprehend the tablet, as well as cultivation resources and books on array techniques. The top 30 cultivators will be given extremely precious cultivation resources and books on array techniques. The 31st to 100th cultivators will be given abundant cultivation resources. I hope that everyone will be able to perform at their best. Qin Jian briefly announced the rewards. The Array Formation Master Competition had been held for many years. Everyone knew the significance of this competition, so there was no need to mention it. Even so, the Array Masters who were about to participate in the competition couldn't help but look forward to it after hearing about the rich rewards. This wasn't just a chance to become famous. At the same time, as long as they could grasp this opportunity, just the cultivation resources alone would be enough for them to advance further. Shen Duanyu clenched his fists tightly and looked determined. This array formation master competition was his only chance. Chapter 68:12. As long as he could grasp the opportunity, he believed that there would still be city lords who would value his talent and extend an olive branch to him. Duanyu, you can definitely do it. Shen Duanyu nodded slightly, and his gaze unconsciously turned towards Di Beichen. A sinister look appeared on his face once again. He wanted to see what kind of results this guy could achieve. Ning Tian, your foresight is only SOSO. On the high platform, the 5 grandmasters also appeared one by one. Xin Xing, Ning Tian, and Zhen Gudao were among them. In addition, there were 2 other grandmasters who were also highly respected. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 5 grandmasters on the high platform and understood why their matter had caused such a big commotion. There were only 5 grandmasters in total as judges, and their matter directly involved 3 grandmasters. It was impossible not to attract attention. Thinking about it carefully as Zhen Gudao's disciple, Shen Duanyu did indeed have the right to be proud. Just in terms of his teachings, ordinary array masters could not compare to him at all. Next, the participating array masters can walk up to the high platform. Tables had already appeared on the high platform. Even though the large platform was filled with tables, it still looked very spacious. Bailey Hongzhuang only took a rough look at the tables and understood that there must be more than 1,000 array masters participating in this competition. Wanting to enter the top 100 meant that at least 1 out of 10 people had to be chosen. It was indeed not easy to stand out. Fortunately, her mentality was very calm. Participating in this competition was more for the sake of gaining experience and understanding. Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Shihai walked up to the high platform together. The circular high platform was surrounded by several stairs. One array master after another walked down from the stands and walked up to the high platform in an orderly manner. After walking up to the high platform, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that the positions had already been marked. Even though there were many chairs on the high platform at this moment, they still quickly found the position that belonged to them. When Ning Tian and Xin Xing noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually appeared on the high platform with Di Beichen, surprise appeared in their eyes. According to their understanding, Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist, not an array master. Wasn't it strange for her to appear here during the array formation master competition? Just what kind of state has this Qingyang city fallen to now that even alchemists have come to make up the numbers to participate in the formation master competition? How laughable. Zhen Gudao naturally noticed this as well, and he did not hold back in his ridicule. Even if an alchemist came to participate, his results would be much better than a certain someone's incompetent disciple. Ning Tian glanced at Zhen Gudao. I heard that you expelled Shen Duanyu from your sect? At least you still have some foresight. Although it's a little late, you still need some time to recover from old age, right? In terms of sarcasm, Ning Tian would never lose. Sure enough, Zhen Gudao's expression instantly became livid. Ning Tian, don't go too far. Who was the one who started it? Ning Tian rolled her eyes. So what if this girl is here to play around? They're just 2 young people who have just ascended. Give them some time and their results will definitely be much better than Shen Duanyu's. Ning Tian was very certain about this. Xin Xing nodded slightly. To be able to be taken in as a disciple by that master, Di Beichen's talent could be imagined. He definitely could not be compared to the likes of Shen Duanyu. Chapter 68:13. Zhen Gudao didn't know much about Di Beichen's array skills, but from the information he heard, Di Beichen was indeed a cultivator who had just ascended. If it weren't for Ning Tian and Xin Tian, no one would have noticed his existence at all. In the end, all of this was instigated by Shen Duanyu. I'm just reminding you, but an alchemist came to participate in the array master competition. Aren't you relying on your reputation? You're already so old, if you're still being used by 2 youngsters in the end, that would be a real joke. After Zhen Gudao said this, he directly shifted his gaze. Xin Xing and Ning Tian looked at each other, and their feelings were a little complicated. They didn't expect this situation, and they didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang thought of participating today. Maybe this Bailey girl is like me, dabbling in both array skills and alchemy? Ning Tian raised her eyebrows. It wasn't that there weren't cultivators who studied both at the same time, but it was relatively rare. According to the pills that Bailey Hongzhuang refined, her alchemy skills were undoubtedly extremely outstanding. As for her attainments in array skills, it wasn't clear. That should be the case. Xin Xing nodded slightly. Since Bailey Hongzhuang chose to participate in the competition, she was naturally proficient in array skills. However, she had just ascended and put more energy into alchemy so her array skills could be imagined. After all the array masters stood in their respective positions, Qin Jian's voice sounded again. This competition is divided into 3 stages. In the first stage, all the array masters will create the basic array stones together. The types of array stones will be set by the 5 masters. I will choose one of them as the topic of this competition. Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a look of understanding after hearing this topic. Everything was as City Lord Yang said. Most of the first questions were like this. The 5 array masters randomly wrote down the topic, rolled it up and put it into the lottery tube. Qin Jian randomly picked one from it, opened it and raised it up. The topic also appeared in everyone's sight. The topic of the first question is Killing Array, a first-grade killing array. The same array stones had already been prepared for everyone. The effects of a first-grade killing array were the same, but the manufacturing process and quality would be different. This stage was to compare the quality of the array stones created by the array masters. The duration of the competition is 1 hour, and each person only has 3 chances. After the production is completed, the final result will be judged by the detector. I now announce the start of the first round of the competition. As Qin Jian's voice fell, the atmosphere on the high platform suddenly changed. Everyone's eyes fell on the formation stone in front of them. Creating the formation stones required mental energy. They needed to use their mental energy to form a formation and merge it with the formation stones. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the array stone, and her mental power quickly spread out. A first-grade killing array was actually the entry level of array techniques. It was the most basic array techniques like trap arrays and illusion arrays. This was what she learned when she first came into contact with it. Although she didn't make many array stones, it wasn't a problem for her. Di Beichen began to create the formation stones without saying a word. Recently, he had been creating formation stones very frequently, so he was very familiar with the process of creating formation stones. In fact, the truly powerful array techniques were directly set up and not contained in the formation stones. Chapter 68:14. The entire competition ground gradually quieted down. Everyone's gaze landed on the formation masters who were focused on making formation stones on the high platform. The result of every round was related to the final result. Even though every formation master could pass the first round, it was precisely because of this simple question that it often reflected the differences between formation masters. According to past experience, any formation master who could stand out in this round would usually achieve a higher result than the other formation masters. This was because all formations were layered on top of basic formations. The more solid the foundation, the better the effects of the formations created. Shen Duanyu confidently began to make formation stones. He already knew that the first round's test would be this. Even though there would be a total of 5 formations and he wasn't sure which one it was, he had already practiced all 5 formations well before this. Back then, Zhen Gudao had even helped him inspect the formation stones he made and had even obtained approval. Therefore, the first round wasn't difficult for him at all. Even though the competition time was less than an hour, in reality, it didn't take long for formation masters to finish making formation stones. This time was very ample for everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely focused on making formation stones. Her mental power didn't relax at all. Every step was completed according to Senior Zhong Li's previous guidance. Her formation skills had also received guidance from Senior Zhong Li, but she spent more time learning from the books left behind by Beichen and Senior He Shinjun. During the year in the abandoned immortal forest, they had been doing their best to learn almost every day. They didn't dare to relax at all. Since she had chosen to participate in the competition today, she had to bring out her best abilities. Even if she couldn't get a place, she had to at least try her best so that she wouldn't have any regrets. When she noticed that many formation masters around her had already finished making their first formation stones, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and unhurried. She worked slowly and completely immersed herself in making formation stones. Look, Beichen's formation stones are also finished. Yang Lingfeng noticed that Di Beichen was very familiar with the process and calmly made the array stone. He quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he also understood Di Beichen's strength and knew that there should not be any problems in the first level, it was inevitable that there would be some apprehension. Everyone's gazes turned to Di Beichen. After seeing the confident smile on his face, everyone felt relieved. They didn't know what Beichen's array formation was like, but if it could get the approval of 2 masters, it must be very outstanding. Almost everyone is done, but Hong Zhuang's first array stone is not complete yet. Yang Qingxue noticed Bailey Hong Zhuang beside Di Beichen. She was still making the first array stone. Hearing this, everyone had mixed feelings. They all knew that Hong Zhuang wasn't very good at this, but it's still early. Even if Hong Zhuang's speed is a little slow, as long as she can finish within the time limit, it won't be a problem, Yang Lingfeng said with a smile. Look, why did Beichen stop after making the first array stone? Bai Qingli looked up in surprise. Many formation masters would start making the second one after making the first one. Chapter 68:15. Everyone looked at him, and sure enough, while everyone else was busy making the second array stone, Di Beichen really stopped, and had no intention of continuing to make it. Did we forget to remind Beichen? Yang Qingxue and Yang Lingfeng looked at each other. They had participated in the array formation master competition several times, so they were very familiar with the rules. However, they had forgotten that Beichen and the others were not very clear about the rules. They had thought that this was the most basic thing that they did not need to mention. However, it seemed like they really did not mention it. I completely forgot about this. Yang Lingfeng looked embarrassed. In the lower realms they only needed to make 1 array stone. However, the rules of the competition in the chaotic immortal realm were slightly different. They had forgotten to remind him. Then what should we do? Yang Qingxue was stunned. We have no way to remind him now. Don't worry. Yang Han looked at his anxious children and waved his hand. Beichen is so smart. He knows what he is doing. Making 1 more array stone is just to be safe. Who knows, maybe his first array stone is already so outstanding that he doesn't need to make a second one. This kind of situation had happened before in the array formation master competition. Some array formation masters who were very confident in their array formation skills would often stop after making 1 array stone. They did not plan to continue. This was because, in such an environment, the array stone that was made later was not as good as the one that was made earlier. That's right. That's right. Making an extra one is for the sake of safety. You don't have to be so worried, Bai Ziyuan said. The group of juniors nodded when they heard that. However, the worry in their hearts did not dissipate. When Shen Duanyu noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang had not finished making the first array stone, a trace of mockery appeared in his eyes. He knew that this woman was just trying to impress the crowd. Could it be that she knew that Di Beichen would be embarrassed this time, so she came up to help him? What a joke. He slowly turned his gaze. He wanted to see if Di Beichen was as slow as him. However, he realized that after making the first array stone, Di Beichen sat there calmly and waited for the competition to end. Wasn't this guy a little too arrogant? Shen Duanyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Apart from a few famous array masters, no one else would dare to do such a thing. Di Beichen was just a fledgling, yet he was so arrogant. It was unknown whether he had real skills or was just trying to play to the gallery. As he thought of this, Shen Duanyu unconsciously became distracted. The formation stone in his hand suddenly shattered into powder. Looking at the powder in his hand, Shen Duanyu suddenly felt his face burning. If he failed to create a first-grade array stone, wouldn't it be a joke in the eyes of others? He quickly threw away the powder in his hand and picked up another array stone, pretending that nothing had happened. However, such an act of deceiving oneself was obviously of no use. Many people noticed this and snickered in their hearts. To be able to fail in crafting a first-grade array stone, this level is truly impressive. Ning Tian raised her eyebrows, her gaze inadvertently sweeping over Zhen Gudao's face. Chapter 68:16. He's just distracted, that's all. He's already finished making the first formation stone, and his speed isn't as slow as some people's. It's clear how unskilled he is. Zhen Gudao retorted indifferently. From the perspective of a formation master, Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was indeed very slow. His main profession is an alchemist, and it's already not easy for him to do this for his secondary profession. I'll give you a day's time, can you refine a single pill? Ning Tian asked with a smile. Zhen Gudao. He really couldn't be bothered to talk to this guy anymore. Shen Xing looked at Ning Tian helplessly. This guy's ability to anger people to death was really amazing. This was already the second time Zhen Gudao couldn't hold back his emotions today, and even he felt some sympathy for him. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very slow, but every step was methodical, and she finally finished making the first formation stone. With her level, she actually didn't need to spend so much time making it, but this round was about quality, so she paid extra attention to some small details. Beichen should be the same as her, because she noticed that Beichen's speed was also a bit slower than usual. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and saw Di Beichen's faint smile as elegant and charming as an epiphyllum, carrying confidence and affirmation for her. Di Beichen wasn't worried at all in this round. In terms of mental strength, an alchemist's mental strength was much stronger than a normal person's. Moreover, with the complexity of pill refinement, this definitely wasn't a big problem for Hongzhuang. The two of them sat down just like that, waiting for the round to end. After Shihai finished making the second formation stone, he noticed that the two of them didn't have any intention of continuing, and he couldn't help but remind them, "You can continue making it and choose the best one for testing later." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shihai's worried expression and said in a low voice, "This is already the best I've made." She made the formation stone with her mental strength at its peak, and the entire process was exactly as she had imagined, without any problems. Therefore, even if it was remade, the effect would not be better than the current one. Di Beichen didn't say anything, but his expression clearly told Shihai that he had the same idea. Seeing this, Shihai felt as if he had received a heavy blow. Could it be that these two fellows were still showing off their affection at this time? What was she trying to do with this look of a husband singing and wife having a tacit understanding? Below the stage, Yang Qinxue and the others were not surprised to see that Hongzhuang had also stopped. They could not help but sigh in their hearts. These two fellows were indeed cut from the same cloth. This scene was naturally noticed by many people. On the entire high platform, other than the two of them, there were also a few people who did not continue with their production. However, these two people were the most unfamiliar. "Master Shin, I heard that you admire a young man named Di Beichen?" Qin Jian asked with a smile as he looked at the array masters who were busy with their work. Xin Xing nodded slightly. "He is indeed a promising talent. A young man who has just arrived can still be so calm and composed in such a competition. His bearing is indeed extraordinary." Qin Jian smiled faintly and probed. He stopped after making only one formation stone. It's clear that he's very confident in himself. Chapter 68-17. Following Xin Xing's words, Qin Jian's gaze could not help but change slightly. He had known Xin Xing for a long time and had always been very clear that he was a very conservative person. Generally speaking, even if he was very certain of something, he would not say it with certainty. However, he actually directly called a young man who had just ascended a genius. It was clear that he did not just admire this young man. Qin Jian looked at Di Beichen again. That calm and composed appearance was indeed extraordinary no matter how one looked at it. To be able to be thought so highly of by Xin Xing, this kid's future was also very bright. To be called a genius by Master Xin, he's naturally a well-deserved genius, Qin Jian said respectfully. After hearing this, Zhen Gudao could not help but find it funny. A person who has not even participated in the Array Formation Master Assessment is a first-rate genius as soon as he opens his mouth. Isn't he afraid of being laughed at? Putting everything else aside, he did not think that Di Beichen's talent and array formation skills could surpass Shen Duanyu's. If it were not for this kid causing trouble, Shen Duanyu was also a junior that he admired very much. Now all of this would be ruined. If I say he is, then he is. At least in this aspect he is more talented than me. Xin Xing's voice was full of confidence. He believed in the expert's judgment. Thinking back, he had also wanted to be apprenticed to the expert, but he was not accepted. The expert did not accept him as a disciple, but took Di Beichen as a disciple instead. This was enough to show that Di Beichen's talent in this aspect was stronger than his. Seeing that Xin Xing had said this, Zhen Gudao could not help but have some doubts in his eyes. Why did this guy seem to have fallen into a trap as soon as he met Di Beichen? For the sake of a young and unknown kid, he actually used himself as the bottom. Wasn't this too exaggerated? Qin Jian naturally also understood that Xin Xing's words were unusual. In his heart, his judgment of Di Beichen rose a little. Seeing Xin Xing like this, Ning Tian raised her eyebrows. This guy was completely determined to help Di Beichen properly to repay the expert's kindness. However, this kid was indeed not bad. Dong. An hour had passed and the first stage of the competition had come to an end. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the array stone into the brocade pouch with her name on it before handing it over. As all the array stones were collected, everyone realized that there was a huge detector beside Qin Jian. The detector can clearly detect the quality of the array stones, and the top 100 will be revealed. Qin Jian placed all the array stones into the detector and the entire arena fell into silence. Everyone's eyes fell on the detector. The detector didn't take a long time. Soon they would be able to see the ranking of the top 100. Although the ranking in the first stage did not represent the final ranking, it was still an extremely important factor. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the detector that was constantly running tests, and a look of interest appeared in her eyes. There were many things in the realm of chaotic immortals that couldn't be found in the lower planes. This detector didn't look simple. 100th place, Duanjing of Luoxian City. 99th place, Luo Xiangqing from Clearwater City. Starting from the bottom of the ranking list, the rankings were revealed one by one. All of the array masters who saw their names on the rankings had a look of excitement on their faces. Chapter 68-18. There were more than 1,000 array masters participating in the competition. Even though it was only the last place on the ranking list, it still proved that they had defeated 1,000 opponents. How could that be easy? Moreover, the array masters who were able to participate in this competition were considered outstanding among the many array masters. Any cultivator who was able to appear on the list would be proud of their achievements. In the blink of an eye, the 70th place had appeared on the ranking list. However, Di Beichen and the others' names had yet to be seen. Faced with such a result, Yang Qingxue and the others were filled with anxiety. They really didn't know how to estimate it. They naturally hoped that Beichen and the others' results would appear on the ranking list, but in fact, their Qingyang city had almost never appeared on the ranking list in so many years. According to their thoughts, if there was a chance, it should be between the 70th and 100th place. That was the best result. Any higher would be impossible. Although it was normal for Qingyang City to not be able to enter the top 100, they felt that Beichen's strength should be quite good since he was chosen by the two masters. Forget about it this time. In the next array master competition, Beichen will definitely have a good result, Yang Han said slowly. Yang Han said slowly. A look of disappointment flashed across his eyes, but he quickly pulled himself together again. For a young man who had just ascended, such a request was already difficult. Bai Ziyuan nodded. We're just here to broaden our horizons. The results are already very good. Actually, this result wasn't shameful. After all, there were just too many participants. 63rd place, Shiyun City's Cheng Su. Father, it's Cheng Su. A smile appeared on Bai Qingli's face. Cheng Su was the most outstanding of the 3 array masters participating in the competition this time. To be able to obtain such a ranking was really a pleasant surprise. The corners of Bai Ziyuan's lips couldn't help but curl up. This result was even better than the last time. Cheng Su's array skills are getting better and better, Yang Han praised. Bai Ziyuan smiled faintly. Cheng Su has always been very diligent in this area. His improvement is also very obvious. On the high platform, Shihai's expression became abnormally ugly when he noticed that there were no names in their team among the 50th place announced. What should we do now? Shihai looked worriedly at Di Beichen and Lin Yiqian. He was only there to serve as a foil in today's competition. But Di Beichen and Lin Yiqian were the center of attention. Under such circumstances, if one didn't obtain a ranking, the more exaggerated the previous flattery, the more excessive the ridicule would be. Don't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, her phoenix eyes looking at the rankings. Her heart was a bit nervous. If she was participating in the alchemist competition, she wouldn't be worried at all. But it was an array master competition, so it was inevitable that she wouldn't be able to judge. She no longer cared about her own ranking. She was more interested in Beichen's ranking. The array master taught by Senior Zhongli definitely wouldn't be weak. When Ning Tian noticed that Di Beichen's name hadn't appeared in the rankings, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. With this kid's strength, it shouldn't be impossible for him to enter the top 100. Right now, only the top 30 had yet to appear. Could it be that this kid actually entered the top 30? Chapter 68-19. Shen Xing and Ning Tian exchanged a glance. Regarding this result, they were also somewhat uncertain in their hearts. What they were more certain of was Di Beichen's future. As long as he was given a certain amount of time, he would definitely grow into a promising talent. It was just that in such a short time at present, this result was seriously hard to predict. After Shen Duanyu saw that the ranking was already reported to the 30th place, a thick look of smugness involuntarily surfaced in his eyes. How pretentious Di Baichen was previously, I even thought how formidable his strength was. Didn't expect that it was just a joke. Shen Duanyu laughed lightly. I want to see how he gets off the stage later. Duanyu, you're a rare genius array master to begin with. Back then Master Zhen directly praised you as a 1 in 100 genius. How can Di Baichen be mentioned in the same breath as you? Mentioning Master Zhen, a trace of complicated look also surfaced in Shen Duanyu's eyes. How much Master Zhen appreciated him back then was how ironic everything now was. Just because of an insignificant Di Baichen, he was expelled from the sect. 10th place, Myriad Water City's Shen Duanyu. When this name appeared on the ranking list, Shen Duanyu's eyes also bloomed with dazzling brilliance. Among the 1,000 or so array masters he was actually ranked 10th. This result was already enough for him to be proud of. Such a long period of hard work was not in vain. When Zhen Gudao saw this name, a trace of gloomy and unclear light also surfaced in the depths of his eyes, and he could not help feeling somewhat emotional in his heart. The reason why he thought so highly of Shen Duanyu back then was that he indeed had uncommon talent in this aspect. This kind of result was already an extremely top-notch existence among the younger generation. After Bailey Hongzhuang noticed this name, her eyes also changed slightly. No wonder Shen Duanyu was usually arrogant and despotic, he indeed had the capital. Now only 9 places had yet to appear. She was originally full of confidence in herself, but now she only felt that she might be ranked after the 100th place. She might not be good at high-grade array formations, but this first-grade array stone she learned from Senior Zhong Li together with Baichen back then. Senior Zhong Li's requirements for basic formations could be described as harsh. They had practiced this first-grade formation countless times. Just now when she was making it, she was fully focused and every detail was handled meticulously. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any problems. Wife, there's no need to worry. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's constantly changing expression, Di Baichen's voice was as warm as the sun, shining into her slightly cold heart and dispelling her original worry. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. At this point, even if they didn't enter, it was fine. Baichen, you couldn't have entered the top 5, right? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly became interested. She didn't have much confidence in herself, but she was very confident in Baichen. Di Baichen smiled faintly and said nothing. Below the high platform, Yang Han and the others had already completely given up hope. I really didn't think that this guy Shen Duanyu could actually enter the top 10. When the time comes, who knows how he'll make fun of Baichen. Yang Qinshua's face was gloomy. This guy was petty to begin with. When he had no ability, he was very arrogant. Now that the results were out, who knew how proud he would be? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.